Michael Bisping and Paul Felder were talking about GLP-1s the other day, and it got me thinking. They have a podcast called Believe You Me. It's about UFC, and I love UFC. It's my favorite sport. Uh, and what they had to say about GLPs got me thinking. I'm a war zone kid. That's just my term for those of us like myself. I'm a child sex abuse survivor. As an adult, I live with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict and bulimic, and a distance runner. I took up running last year. I ran in my first half marathon a couple of weeks ago. I got another one coming up in a week after next. And I've been taking a GLP-1 for about a year or so. And Paul Felder, Michael Bisping were on their podcast, which I love a lot. And they're talking about GLP-1s, and they were talking about it from people that are not me. They're talking about, it's a cheat, basically taking the idea like it's a crutch, it's a cheat, you're not really doing the real work and all that. And I get what they mean. And they're talking about people that are on GLP-1s for a long time, and then they get off it and they gain all the weight back in 6 weeks or whatever, and that's a real horror show. I totally get that. But I was reflecting on that because it made me angry listening to that, and anytime I'm angry, I pay attention. Like, why? What is it that's making me angry? And I spend a lot of time around like the healing world, where people use words like safe space, stuff like that. No, I don't. I'm a Gen Xer from Oklahoma. I was raised by a 3-tour combat machine gunner from Vietnam. Using a phrase like safe space does not come easily to my mind, so I don't. I call it a secure perimeter, because I gotta have a secure perimeter to heal. And healing for me, I think of my psyche, my soul, who I am as a Jenga tower. That game has the wooden blocks in it, where you take off one turn, you take off a little wooden block and you put it on top. And with every turn, that Jenga tower gets taller and shakier, and then the game always ends the same way when it falls down. Now, as a war zone kid, and I'm a child sex abuse survivor, as I said, your war zone might have been physical abuse, which wasn't a huge part of my story at all, but it might have been emotional abuse, which was psychological harm, sexual harm. You may be gender, societal, racial harm, or maybe an actual war zone. Like my favorite UFC fighter, Hamzat Chimaev, was a Chechen kid, grew up in Grozny in the middle of an actual war. Lost his father there. And your bingo card may have been full. Your war zone may have been all of the above. But if you're a war zone kid, you can probably relate to what I'm saying. And healing, I think of as getting my Jenga tower back in shape where I can live with it, where I can go through the world with my Jenga tower in shape. So I don't have to spend my whole life trying to keep my Jenga tower from just falling down, which mine's done numerous times. Healing is just learning and becoming who I am. And I know that Michael Bisping and Paul Felder both know a lot about healing. Michael Bisping only got one eye. It's either that one or that one. I'm not sure which. He had to detach retina from an injury, and then it got redetached. He knows a lot about healing. And I know that Paul Felder does triathlons. Good Lord. At least I think he does. Swimming, biking, running, all long distances. So I know they know about that stuff. And Conor McGregor is going to get back in the octagon in a week from yesterday. A week from today, we're all going to know how it turned out. And he broke the bejesus out of his leg 5-6 years ago, last time he fought. Broke it bad. And this is going to be the first time he's got back in the octagon. And we're all going to find out. I think about a minute into that fight, we're all going to know a lot about how he's been doing these last 5 years. Greatest fighter ever, as far as I can tell. Now, healing in legs, eyeballs, back injuries, busted legs, all that. That's easy to understand. You got to heal. If Conor McGregor had just taken a stick and a couple of bandanas and tied that stick to his leg and put them bandanas around it, he would have healed, kind of. Something would have happened to his leg, and he'd probably be able to walk. It might be a little bit shorter than the other one, but I'll tell you what he wouldn't have been doing. He wouldn't be getting ready to get in that octagon in 6 days. That's what he would not be doing if all he'd done is taken a bandana and a couple of handkerchiefs and tied it to the side of his leg. He went through a healing rehabilitation process. And if you're a war zone kid like this guy, that's what healing is. Every little bit of abuse, damage that you take as a child is like those pieces of in that Jenga tower being slid out of that Jenga tower and put back up on top, right? And by the time you get to be an adult, that thing is a tall, shaky thing. And, like I said, I'm a recovering addict, bulimic, binge eater. I've done a lot of different things in the world. I live with borderline personality disorder. I feel betrayed when people hurt me. I get wild, impulsive mood swings. Matter of fact, the death rate for adults living with suicide, the death rate for adults living with borderline personality disorder is by self-imposed harm. The mortality rate is something like around 10%, right? We need healing. My fellow child sex abuse survivors need healing. You need to get that psyche back up where we can live. That's how I think of it. Now back to GLP-1s. I thought about that a lot because the first time I remember eating until I puked and then eating until I puked again, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I know that based on the house I was living in at the time, McLeod, Oklahoma, in Pottawatomie County. By the way, I'm going to be in Oklahoma City in a few weeks and watch the fights. Go Trickus. That's the first time I remember binging and purging, heaving. That's what we call it in the game. That's the first time I remember heaving. And as soon as I could get my hands on any kind of drug, I did. Food was the first one I got. Peanut butter, Ovaltine, Oreos. They moved on to pot and drinking and cocaine and rock and methamphetamine and anything else I get my hands on. Prescription opiates for a long, long time. I'll not do any of that stuff right now. Healing is about getting your Jenga tower back into shape. And about a year ago, I had got down to about 240 pounds. The most I ever weighed was 378 pounds. That's the most, no, that is probably not the most I ever weighed. That's just the highest number I ever saw on a scale that I was standing on. Just me, not me and a Mastiff, just me, 378 pounds. That's a big number. Right now I'm weighing the 190s. I would like to get to 180. That's my goal weight. I'll stop and make a pit stop on the way to being able to weigh in as a middleweight there. I'm not a fighter. But that's my kind of goal weight. And and it did not come in one long, swoop at all. 378, 350, 300, 250, 270, 240, 250, 220, 240, like that. But here we are in the 190, sorry. About a year ago, I was in the 240s and I took up running. I had never run more than 200 yards at a stretch in my adult life. I can guarantee you that. And I made it way too hard on myself. I just kind of took off running as fast as I could. And then when I couldn't breathe anymore, did it again. It don't have to be that hard. That is not what I do now. I run about 30 miles a week. Today's Sunday. I got a race in a week from today. I got a race. So today I'm doing 3.25 mile easy run. That's how most of it is, easy run. It's also about a year ago, and I weighed about 240 when I took up running. It's also about a year ago that I started taking the GLP-1. And is it a crutch? Is it something extra? Does it mean it's not real? I don't know what real means. I know that the first time I heaved, I was 4 years old. I know that's a lot of conditioning in my mind that to get out of unpleasant circumstances, cram food down my gullet. Food down my gullet, drugs into my body, or work or other things. Now, I'm not a fighter in any way. I went to little Christian schools. They didn't have anything but a basketball team. And basketball is a profoundly useless sport to me as a guy. I'm a big guy, got a big frame. But there was no other sports. And if there had been, my folks wouldn't let me do them. Controlling, smothering environment. And they were too busy criticizing me and putting enough pressure on me that I was busy in the bathroom heaving up Fig Newtons to worry about anything else. That just was not available to me. And I know in the world of fighters, which is the world I follow, fairly closely. In the world of fighters, there's not that many calm, mild-mannered, even keel kind of folks that make it into that octagon with wearing little black gloves that say UFC on them. Matter of fact, I would say there's nary a one of them that's calm, mild-mannered, and just runs on an even keel. How could you? It ain't the way it is. And I relate to those folks by saying, look, I can relate to that. They're extreme. They probably, a lot of them, and I'm projecting here, but I don't think I'm not wrong. A lot of them, due to the pressures of life, whatever war zone they grew up in, they went that way. They went to controlling what they ate in a different way. I crammed as much as I could down my gullet and heaved it up again. They went another way. Control your body a different way. Do sit-ups, do crunches, do all kind of core work, learn how to kick, throw punches, and learn how to grapple, learn how to throw elbows, and take a punch to the face, and weigh in, and have a relationship with food that is. I can only relate to that relationship with food in the sense it is weird. That's the only way I can relate to it. But these are my fellow human creatures, and I see the intensity in any professional fighter. I see that. And so I think about that, and I think about the number of people that are on TRT that are taking, peptides, and if they got the money to go to Costa Rica and see some doctor that'll hook them up with human growth hormone and EPO or do you say EPO? I'm not sure, but hook you up with all that stuff, right? Is that a crutch? Well, for some people, you can go right now and get yourself a TRT script if you can afford it, and you can shoot yourself up with that. You can probably get human growth hormone and everything else in the world. Is that fake? Well, it depends. Sure, there aren't there? Couldn't you go down to the gym and find roid rage guy or roid rage girl that's not doing all the other work, that's just taking out TRT and hoping they can get by on aggression and mood swings and water retention? But there's plenty of people that use that stuff because it fits in with their life. Right? They use that stuff. Is it because they need the boost? I don't know. They do it. It fits in with their life. It fits in with the broader plan of who they are and where they want to go. And if you're not in that world, it is very easy to look at that and criticize that and say, what are you doing with your TRT? And judge that, right? Well, you can do the same thing with women that are in perimenopause and they're taking hormone replacement therapy because that fits in with their life and that's what they want to do. Is that a crutch? You should just learn to love it. Say goodbye, menstruation. Hello, mood swings and hot flashes and all the other stuff that goes along with that many women don't like. And they take hormone replacement therapy for that. Is that a crutch? Am I here to preach at them and tell them all about how they should live? No. Get off my back and I'll get off yours, right? But I can understand that. I can understand where they're coming from with perimenopause, hormone replacement therapy. I can understand where fighters and tough guys are coming from with TRT and peptides and all that stuff. I don't really know anything that stuff does. Not part of my world. But I know that in my life, for me, for this guy, for this war zone kid, for this adult child sex abuse survivor who is healing, and healing is learning and becoming who I am. I think of myself as a pilgrim on the trail to the Western lands, a place of peace and wholeness where I learn and become what I am. That's me. That's healing in the present moment, moving forward, not being tortured by the past, and not looking for a day when another version of myself is going to be there, when the Ben that doesn't have these problems is going to be there, but living right now in the here and now today. And I'm going to, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to go put my shoes on and do it's short today, 3.25 easy run miles. But that's what I'm supposed to do today. I don't have to go in and out there today and run 10 miles at a race pace and smoke myself. That would not be a good idea because I got a half marathon to run a week from today. I'll be starting it. It would be a very bad idea today if I went out and ran a half marathon today. That is not what I do today. What I do today is run 3.25 easy miles. And then I'm going to take 2 days off with no running, right? That's what I do today. And I can tell you that as far as I can tell, the GLP-1 that I take is part of the recipe that's got me to this day right here, which is a high watermark for happiness in my life, a high watermark for tranquility, a high watermark for health, a high watermark for everything good in my life, a high watermark for this guy, me, learning and becoming who I am today. The best version of myself today is not some future Ben. The best version of myself today is just me today, doing whatever it is, living the life that today puts in front of me. And for Conor McGregor, I hope that the life that's in front of him today is one where he's 6 days away from getting in that octagon, and he's confident about it, and he's happy about it, and he knows the rehab and healing that he's done on his leg, that he had to do on his leg to put him right here, right now, today, so he can be the best Conor McGregor that he's ever going to be, which is one right now. He certainly has an opportunity that if he comes in and, gets it done next Saturday night, to my eyeballs, that'll be the greatest feat of competition and sportsmanship and heart that I will be aware of. I wasn't even following UFC the last time he got in the octagon. I was not. But I'm looking forward to it. And I know that he had to do everything he did since he broke the bejesus out of that leg to get to where he is today, right here and now. And he had to do that stuff day by day. Just like I have to live my life day by day by day by day, one day at a time, this day right here, this Sunday morning, just like you do. And if TRT, if peptides and human growth hormone are fit into your life, and that's what you had to do to be right here, right now, today, then that's what you had to do to be right here, right now, today, living your life. All that was on my mind, thinking about Michael Bisping and Paul Felder and the Believe You Me podcast. Go listen to it. It's pretty good. And if you are spend a lot of time like I do in the healing world, there's a lot of women in that world, and there's a lot of women with a lot of thoughts and responses to violence among men, and I can understand why. I'm not telling you that you should go out and become a big UFC fan if you spend all your time in safe spaces and healing circles like this guy does. But I can tell you that that's the perspective I have on it. It's something I can relate to with the intensity of human life. And so this is on my mind this morning. It's a beautiful day on the trail of the Western Lands, a place of peace and wholeness where we learn and become what we are. And let's all get in our miles on the trail today, whatever that means for you, Pilgrim. Let's get in our miles on the trail today, and let's walk them together. Let's walk them together. It's a beautiful day on the trail, Pilgrim. I'm looking outside. Daylight's burning. Let's get a move on.